Mr. Schultmar,
Present.
Mr. Bob Culverson,
Here.
Mrs. Bettinghouse,
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld.
Here.
Let the record show 6 members are present, 1 member is absent. At this time, do I have a motion to approve the written minutes of the July 22nd council meeting?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to approve the written minutes of the July 22nd council meeting.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Hausfeld to approve the written minutes of the July 22nd council meeting. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Next on the agenda, I will introduce Ms. Elizabeth Ty, who is running for District 2 Judge. At this time, you have the podium.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to address you all. I live right up the road on Redbud in North Avondale. So me and my family visit St. Bernard on a regular basis, whether it's the Dollar Tree or Rimke or our favorite place, Dairy Queen. So just to give you a little information about myself, I have been practicing law over 18 years. I'm the only candidate that's a former prosecutor, public defender, and for the last 13 years, I've been in private practice. So I'm the only candidate with experience on both sides, which I think is really important with respect to a judge being fair and impartial. And so when you think of a judge, well, first of all, I'm running for municipal court. So that deals with misdemeanors and civil suits under $25,000. So your disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, domestic violence, petty thefts, those types of offenses. And while they may not be the most serious of offenses when you compare misdemeanors to felonies, they often can cause a lot of problems in your neighborhood, like the village of St. Bernard, because the nuisance really creates an impediment to the quality of life in our community. So I know in North Avondale we had an issue with people breaking into the cars. And I worked with one of the officers at St. Bernard, and he was on it. He knew who had recently got out and he identified who he believed was the person. We all shared our videos off of our Ring doorbells. And so I have an ongoing relationship with law enforcement. I'm completely tied to this community, and like I said, I'm the only candidate with the experience on both sides of the aisle. So in November, I hope you consider voting for me. If you have any questions, I would be more than glad to answer them.
Any questions, anyone? Anyone in the audience have any questions? All right, we thank you for your time and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. All right, then we'll move to reports of administrative officials. Mayor, Mr. Stuchel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start by thanking all of the residents and those who attended the 2021 German Luau this past weekend. The event was a huge success, and we look forward to next year. I'd also like to thank our amazing committee, the police and fire departments, and the service department who ultimately made this event possible. They went above and beyond with all of their efforts in the setup and teardown. On Tuesday of this week, the CIC held a demo party to celebrate the removal of one of the village's biggest eyesores, Long John Silver's. We even had 3 former employees on site, one of which was a former manager who was holding back her tears. I was told that at one time that location was #1 in the district, and we were able to get some memories recorded by the former employees. Just a reminder, the St. Bernard Community Improvement Corporation will host the second community engagement event for the proposed joint venture between Civitas Development Group and Regnum Capital Partners that includes the capital advisory expertise of Stack Source, Inc. for a $32 million mixed-use or proposed $32 million mixed-use development at the current St. Bernard Square Shopping Center on Tuesday, August 17th at 6 p.m. in the main hall of the municipal building. The sites could support up to 200 residential units consisting of townhomes, an apartment building, walk-ups, and at least 5,000 square feet of ground floor retail space that could be utilized for light retail and restaurants. The developer has engaged GBBN, a local architectural firm who has extensive experience in mixed-use projects, to facilitate 3 pre-development community engagement sessions. The second session will build on session 1. The development team will expand on feedback received to date and its incorporation into the overall project and planning. It is critical that we hear from St. Bernard's various residents and stakeholders. This Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. in the main hall of the municipal building, The second shot for the vaccine event hosted by the Village of St. Bernard, St. Clement Church, and Mercy Health Partners will be administered. This is a follow-up event to the one that was hosted on Sunday, July 25th at St. Bernard Square. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. At this time, before we go to you, Ms. Brickway, I apologize. I want to ask for a moment of silence. Recreation Director Paul Schultmeyer's mother passed away last week, so if we could have a moment of silence for her. Thank you. All right, Auditor, Ms. Brickway.
Thank you, Mr. President. I supplied all of the council and administration with the end of July revenue and expense reports. The revenue at the end of July was $8,400,397.26, and the expenses were $7,254,226.33. As of date, we are underspending the revenues by $1,146,171.03. I will review the revenues and the expenses again at the end of August, and if it keeps going the way it's going, I will possibly be increasing the investments then, and I will let you know. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Law Director, Ms. Van Valkenburg.
Last night, I attended the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee regarding a possible St. Bernard non-discrimination ordinance, and I believe the chair of the committee will be addressing committee of the whole on that committee's current posture. We also, I am still continuing to do some research on possible matters related to, I'm going to use the phrase Airbnb ordinance, but it's really any short-term ordinance, and that concludes my report, or short-term housing or transient housing ordinance, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Malgroup.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the bank statement from First State Bank for the 4th of July Memorial Fund. At the end of July, our balance there totaled $5,658.65. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. I need an appropriation in line item 2021 sidewalks. Every year I do a certain amount of sidewalks with that line item, and this year when we went to clean up some property, the east side of Delmar Court is really, really bad. So the bid for that will be $4,400. That would be curb work and sidewalk. It's actually uprooted. A tree had grown there and ivy had grown across the sidewalk, and when we cleaned it up, it was pretty bad. Also, I would like to make council aware that we had, the Planning Commission had met, and we approved the, for B2 change in the Heritage Hill. So as you come down there, it's rated B3. We need it B2 so there can be retail and service. The Planning Commission approved the retail and service be added into the Chapter 1129 of the St. Bernard Zoning Code. So what happens now is that the Planning Commission has approved it, it goes to council. For council to do anything, they have to also have a public hearing like we did, so it'll have to be posted. With that, my recommendation would be to have your public hearing right before the next committee of the whole of the next committee, next committee of the whole, have your meeting right before then, the public hearing. Shouldn't take long. If you're all for the Planning Commission recommendation of adding retail and service to that codified ordinance, then you go ahead and then give anybody in the public wants to say anything, or if anybody shows up and has input, we listen to that, you make up your mind, you vote, and then we'll finalize it. So, but that would be my recommendation, is to have it posted and then have your meeting right before the next committee of the whole. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke.
Valerie, what's the time frame on notifying for public hearings? Can we do it within the next committee of the whole?
It should be enough time for the next committee of the whole, I believe.
Next committee of the whole is September 9th.
I'll double check the calendar dates, but I think we'll probably be okay.
Mr. President, I can
Ms.
tell you on advertising for the budget, it has to be within 10 days. 10 days of the meeting or longer.
So I'm assuming does anyone have a problem with having that public hearing before the committee of the whole?
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke?
make a motion to have the public hearing before the committee of the whole as long as it's legally possible.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. DeBerke, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson, to have a public hearing at before the committee of the whole on September 9th. Are there any remarks? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So ordered. I'm assuming someone will, wherever we have to advertise that, it'll be advertised then?
Mr. President?
Mr. Paul?
Heidi and I will post it. Heidi actually will post it tomorrow. It's been a pre-plan.
We appreciate your honesty. All right.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke?
Tommy, do you need that sidewalk money at next council meeting, or can it wait?
Mr. President, I'm
Mr.
sorry. The bid I got, I told him also that there's basins. There's 3 basins that have totally collapsed. And since I've been here, they're the most expensive because they're gone. So they have to rebuild the whole thing. So I told him when he comes in, if he wanted to do that and then do the sidewalk then, it would be fine. So if by next council meeting, it'll be fine. If that's what you're asking. End of the month.
Is there money in there for basins?
No, basins, yes, that doesn't come out of sidewalks. Sidewalks only has $300 and something left in it.
And how much do you want in that line item?
4,400 is the bid. But I'm done with sidewalks. I only
You're
pick
done
out-
spending money.
Yeah, done spending the money for sidewalks. I do every year. I pick out what needs to be done and then we do it.
Mr. President, if
Ms.
you're
Brinkley.
going to go ahead and put that ordinance on the table, I will go ahead at the same time and review if we need to transfer anything into the funds. I was just kind of waiting till we had an ordinance. So I'll review that, and if you have the ordinance, I'll add that to it.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke?
make a motion to put an ordinance on the table for adding money to the sidewalk line item 2021 and possible transfers if Peggy needs them.
I'll second that, Mr. President. Sorry.
A motion by Mr. DeBerke, second by Ms. Housefeld, to put an ordinance on the table for the additional appropriation for the sidewalks. Any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye. So ordered. Sorry, I thought it was on. All right. 6-0. Anything else, Mr. Paul?
Oh, thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
Tax Commissioner / Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the July 2021 tax report. Tax collections for July were $2,413,171. Tax refunds for July were $6,467. Payments from the e-file system for July were $444. $883 in delinquent tax was collected with capital recovery, and $1,061.53 in delinquent tax was collected with the Ohio Attorney General's office. That concludes my report.
Thank you. This time we'll move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. DeBerke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just like to congratulate Peggy for getting another perfect audit award from State Auditor Faber. Concluding my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Safety, Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'd like to let the residents know that we are canceling this month's Block Watch meeting. So we'll be back onto the 3rd Thursday in September. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Schultmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the report for July of 2021 from the Service Department. There were 41 trucks placed at residences, 28 dumpsters placed at residences, 383 special pickups at residences, 202.67 tons of garbage taken to the landfill. There were 59.18 tons of recycled material and 6,180 pounds of scrap metal. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Public improvements, Mr. Bob Culbertson.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Mayor Stuchel said earlier, in this meeting, we will have that CIC meeting next Tuesday to go over for community engagement. I just want to, I got an opportunity to go out and talk to some of the residents who shared some concerns. For anybody who I hadn't had the chance to talk to, if they have any questions or comments they want to pass along in that meeting, feel free to email me at @large02@cityofstbernard.org. I will be at that meeting and we'll share your concerns, because I know some residents didn't have the opportunity to get to the last meeting, and they shared concerns they might not be able to make it to this week's meeting. Besides that, we do have the regular scheduled CIC meeting on August 24th at 6 p.m. in Councilors' Chambers, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Ms. Bettinghouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Valerie mentioned, the laws, contracts, and claims did meet yesterday, and the topic was the unlawful discrimination ordinance that has been in this committee for quite a while. There was more discussion, there was questions and answers, and at the end of the night, the committee took a vote, and the vote was 2-1 that it will not come out of committee, and so there will not be any more discussion of that in committee. If we feel later on that it is something that is needed, we will certainly group back together laws, contracts, and claims and look at that again. In the meantime, what we would like to do from the laws, contracts, and claims is to have a resolution for this city about being a non-discriminatory village. So I would like to propose that to council that we do put a resolution on the table for next council meeting. I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, seconded by Mr. Ray Culberson to place a resolution on the table for, I guess, stating that St. Bernard is a non-discriminatory village. Okay. Are there any remarks? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Anything else, Ms. Bettinghouse?
Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Is there a report from Ms. Miller? Nope. Business and Industry, Ms. Housefeld.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight I have the Village of St. Bernard Building and Zoning Department 2021 July Activities Report. Building activities, there's 9 residential permits and 3 commercial permits. Total fees for residential permits was $1,587.51. Total fees for the commercial permits is $800.84. Amount paid back to the Treasurer, State of Ohio for the residential was $15.89. Amount paid back to the Treasurer, State of Ohio for commercial is $24.03. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. This time, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Please state your name and address for the record.
Nicole Klungel, 551 Church Street. I have a couple questions. One is whether masks will be required at the feedback event for CIC. The CDC recommendation right now is for masks to be worn indoors, and there have been 11 new cases of COVID reported in St. Bernard in the last few weeks after a month of no new cases reported. It seems like masks would be a good idea at an event that draws over 100 people that are closely packed in that room. The second one is, now that the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee has voted to keep discrimination legal in St. Bernard, are there any council members who have concerns about that decision?
Mr. President.
Ms. Bettinghouse.
Nicole, I appreciate your interpretation of that, but that's not what that committee voted that to stay or to die in that committee at this time. We do not, do not approve of discrimination in this village. And so that interpretation is your interpretation. That's not the meaning of this ordinance not getting out of the committee.
I appreciate your opinion, Ms. Bettinghouse, but it remains that legally speaking and factually speaking, there is no law preventing certain forms of discrimination in St. Bernard, and that was a decision you signed on to. I would love it if any members of council would be willing to actually take a stand on this issue. I don't expect anybody to say yes, but I do invite you to do so. I also oppose a resolution on the grounds that it's completely hypocritical for a committee that voted to keep discrimination legal, to claim that St. Bernard is welcoming, especially the topic of the CIC feedback meeting. There were 2 residents specifically asking whether the demographics of St. Bernard would change with a new development. We all know what that's code for, and that is not welcoming. So anybody who's saying St. Bernard is completely 100% wholesome and welcoming, you're not listening, and there may be a reason people aren't coming to you with these concerns.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I'm not
Or,
on
excuse me,
council.
Ms. Brickaway.
Okay, I'm not on council, but I'll speak. For you to say I am discriminating, right there, you're putting something in somebody's, saying something against somebody that's 100% not true. So I take offense to that. You have no idea what I feel, excuse me, you have no idea what I feel, what I think about anybody. And that's part of the whole reason that I'm against that. And I've lived here 22 years. I've never seen an issue. I don't have an issue, but that's my personal opinion. But to attack 7 people like that and say that they discriminate against people, it's kind of what I was saying the whole time. This whole thing caused more of a problem than I ever seen it try to fix anything. I saw it tear more people apart. I treat people equally. I don't care either way. Like I said, here's my thing, right here. You're treated the same, right here. Not above, not below. And if somebody in a meeting says they don't want more Section 8 housing, they have a right to say that, okay? And just because you don't think that, because I know I've been at meetings where you've argued that's just what they're saying, you know, and everybody does get an opinion. But I just think that was rather mean, I guess is the best way I can say it, what you just said to council.
I'm not concerned with being a sweet person. I'm
Okay,
concerned with being a person who protects other people's rights, because that is where actual goodness comes from. I did not say anything about you discriminating, but I will say that you in person have told me about multiple instances of discrimination.
I'd like you to repeat those because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I decline to repeat those.
Well, you're outright lying. And I'm going to go on TV and say you're lying because I have never said that. Ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't we have a conversation about that?
No,
and I'll
thank you.
remind
No, thank you.
I was
I'm
going to
fine.
say, we can have this conversation after the meeting. This is kind of he said, she said kind of deal. I don't think that we need to get involved in all that.
And Mr. President, I agree. And that's what I've been trying to say the whole time. People are pointing fingers at each other and I believe hurting our community by doing things just like that. I think our community is a great community. I think every community might have issues, but I don't think the ordinance was necessary. My personal opinion, I would absolutely 100% favor a resolution saying that St. Bernard believes in treating everybody equally, and that is just my opinion. Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Klung?
I'll withhold comment at this time.
Mr. President,
Ms. Hausfeld?
for somebody to say that I'm discriminatory, they don't know me very well. For those of you that don't know me, over 3 years ago, I weighed almost 200 pounds more, and it's amazing the people that judge you because of your weight versus who you are as a person. And for those of you that do know me, you do know that in my family, I have every walk of life that you can imagine. And to say that I'm discriminatory or group us all together, which is what you did, I take offense to that. I try, and I've always lived like this, try to treat people the way I want to be treated. And if that's not good enough for you, sorry, that's how I am as a person. And as far as telling me that we judge everybody or we discriminate against everybody, that to me is just wrong. And like I said, I have every walk of life in my family that you can imagine. I love people. I love people in general. I love talking to people. And I don't care what you are, who you are, or whatever. You want to talk to me and have something to say, I'm more than willing to listen and figure out solutions to stuff. But to group everybody together, I do take offense to that. Thank you.
May I make a comment, Mr. President?
Yes.
My comments pertain solely to the legal ordinance that was proposed and not to personal behavior. There is a difference. If you choose to take this personally, that has nothing to do with my comment. That has to do with your feelings.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, what is council's pleasure on the absence of Ms. Miller?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion that we
Excuse.
excuse the absent member.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms.
Dismiss as
Bettinghouse,
consent.
second by Ms. Housefeld to excuse the absent member. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? So ordered. All right, then I show one resolution and one ordinance for next council meeting. And that council meeting will be Thursday, August 26th at 7 p.m. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray Culbertson.
make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Mr. Ray Culbertson, second by Ms. Housefeld to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.